And welcome back to another video. Okay, so just want to start this video by saying that I tried to start this, but unfortunately, my internet was acting up. So this is my second attempt at trying to get through this video. If there are any more issues with the connection, I may just have to issues with the connection. Yeah, I feel as if there are more issues with the connection, and I do apologize. This is so annoying. Uh, this is the thing about lives. If anyone is watching right now, can you please let me know, is the connection are we good to go for the connection so we can get through this presentation? Because I really, really want to share information about Sagittarius today. I'm itching. You said it's fine. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much. Now, if there's any issues, connection is good. Awesome. Thank you. If there's any issues, just say like connection terrible, whatever, and we can postpone this. We can do this another time. But good. I'm glad. But yeah, if there are any more issues, just let me know. And I do apologize, and then we can get it postponed because I really, really I know Mercury in retrograde. I know. But no, so right, I wanna share my story. But before I do, just if you're new here, okay, if you're just tuning in and you're like, what the heck's going on? Yes, I tried to talk about the Sagittarius archetype before this, but my internet connection was really glitchy, terrible. So I've had to restart. But my name is Hannah. I'm a Western practical astrologer, and I'm here today to talk all about the Sagittarius archetype. Happy birthday to all of you Sagittarians out there. If your sun is in Sagittarius, it's your season. Yes, happy birthday to you. And for all of those of you who are tuning back in, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of your support. Right. So, my story. I really, really want to share this story from today because Mercury, like you said, Valhalla, which I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. If I'm not, I do apologize. But Mercury is in retrograde, right? So it's to do with Mercury being in retrograde and how things are just playing out for me personally and what happened today. Right. So, what I recommend doing for this part of the retrograde, so whilst Mercury is retrograde in Capricorn from the 13th of December, look to Saturn, okay? Look to where the dispositor of Mercury is. So I'm going to just share an experience from today. So I have Saturn in the sixth house in Aquarius, along with the Sun and Mercury. Saturn is actually making a conjunction to these planets in my chart. So I had a hospital appointment today, and it was a hospital appointment to do with my nose. So basically, whenever I was younger, I was hit up the face with a golf club. It was a complete accident. It was a kid who did it, and I was also a kid. But my nose was that it was broken until years and years later. So I had to go and get an operation done on my nose whenever I was in my 20s. However, the operation did not turn out to be successful. So one of my nostrils, my left one, is blocked. There's like I think there's something to do with a bone that's like blocking it. So I can't breathe through my left nostril. So they supposedly they were supposed to fix my nose, but like I said, it didn't go to plan. So I have to go back again basically and get another operation on my nose. Now, why is this significant? Because well, when I think about how Saturn is, it rules bones in astrology, and then Mercury looks at the respiratory system, it looks at our breath. You need to breathe through your nose. And then with the sixth house being the house of health, it's just quite fitting in that going to a hospital, going to the doctor for an appointment about my nose. But the Mercury retrograde part of it really comes into play where I had to get my bloods taken 3 times today. So they tried to take blood from my arm, they weren't getting it. And then they tried to take blood from the back of my hand, still couldn't get the blood. And then a different nurse comes in and gets the blood successfully from my left arm. So I just feel as if that was such a Mercury retrograde moment, especially when we explore more areas within my own personal chart and how that kind of played out for me today. And then I went and I got so looks like I'll be going back to get my nose sorted out. But this time, apparently, they're going to be fixing more of the nose. So instead of just the nostril, it's the whole the bridge up here and everything. Not looking forward to it. I really did not like the first operation. Post operation, I was pretty miserable. I'm such a baby when it comes to these types of things. Teresa, you said per baby. Yeah, I'm a big baby. Like my moon is in Aries, and like we can act all tough and stuff, but we're babies, okay? Really, like. Okay, I don't want to speak for all people with moon in Aries. Okay, me myself with this placement, I am a huge baby, and my pain in tolerance is pathetic. Okay, so that was I wanted to share. Of course, Sagittarius is the storyteller of the zodiac, right? So we had to tell a story there. Welcome, Roberto. Hi, how are you? Falhalla, I'm glad that I pronounced your name correctly. And yes, Teresa, good. I hope you are doing good. I'm glad. Time, thank you for your feedback as well. All right, so let's get into the Sagittarius archetype. Again, just a reminder, if the connection is not very good, just say in the comments, and I'm going to be like, right, okay, connection is terrible. Second time round, we're going to postpone this whole thing. Because really, I would just be wasting your time if also be wasting my own time with a bad connection. Right. So Sagittarius season is from the 22nd of November until the 21st of December, give or take a day. And then I also just want to let you know that I'm hosting a trip in 2024. Would love for you to join. There is a survey in the description box. You can fill out that survey. It takes like 2 minutes. Right now, I just want to say with the destinations, there seems to be a lot of popularity going on between Egypt and Austria. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, to meet, talk all about astrology, explore an awesome destination, to also be a part, of the experience there and to try new things within a certain destination. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, fill out the survey. But the thing about it as well is the destination could very well change depending on the votes and things. So the most popular date in the survey, I actually can't remember. I think it might be August or September time, but don't quote me on that. Okay. But yeah, I can't quite remember, Roberto. But that is also where you come into the equation. Just let me know as well on the survey what date suits you. It would just be amazing, I think, for all of us to get together. And it's quite fitting, seeing as it's Sagittarius season. And also, we're talking about the Sagittarius archetype, and Sagittarius is known as the traveler of the zodiac, the wanderer, the explorer. Right, so there's also some astrology products available. You can find them all over on hannahselsewhere.com. A lot of them are also available on Etsy. The calendar for 2024 is available. I know that a good few of you have purchased the astrology calendar for 2024. So I just want to say thank you so, so much. Even to all of you who have purchased the eBooks, like a lot of people have purchased those over the years, and I am so, so thankful for you purchasing them, and I hope that you are able to learn a great deal from them. So thank you again. And just to shout out Patreon, my patrons over at Patreon, thank you so much. I know Danielle, you were here earlier. I'm not sure if you're here for this part of the live, but yeah, I just want to say thank you to all of you. And if you're interested in joining the Patreon, you can do so. Right, so let's get into Sagittarius. So the symbol of Sagittarius, of course, is the centaur. And you can see the glyph there of how it is drawn. It looks like a bow and arrow. But when we look to the centaur symbolism, centaurs in astrology are quite fascinating. I mean, I suppose centaurs are mythological creatures, this like half human, half horse creature. And centaurs, they can be rather unruly. There's more than just one centaur in the chart. Now, what I'm getting at with this is it's interesting because the symbol of Sagittarius is the centaur, but then Chiron in your chart. So I suppose some would consider it to be so like an asteroid or even as a minor planet at times. But Chiron is also linked to being, well, Chiron is a centaur essentially. So if you look at Chiron in the mythology, Chiron is a centaur, but is a type of centaur that really stood out from the rest of the other centaurs because Chiron was wise. Okay, Chiron was a teacher, Chiron was a scholar, Chiron was a philosopher. And just to follow on from the mythology here, we'll bring it back, but Chiron was essentially abandoned as a child and also felt like an outsider and was saddened by his differentness. And the thing then about Chiron in our charts is that it can point toward these types of wounds and these rejections. It can be a very sensitive area within the chart. But just to follow on from this more, there are other celestial bodies, asteroids within the chart that can point toward these sort of unconscious themes. So the thing about asteroids is that they can look at the parts of ourselves that can run amok, if you will. The parts of ourselves that we can sort of address and go deeper within ourselves in order to make them work for us rather than against us. There's something highly unconscious actually about the centaurs, about the certain asteroids within our chart. I actually have a video about the centaurs in astrology, which I highly recommend watching for more information. You've got Pholus, Nessus, Aspolis, etc. But they all play different roles. And the thing about it as well is that they come from the Kuiper belt. And the Kuiper belt that is a very dark area within the solar system. It's way, way, way out, and that's also where Pluto resides. But you see, Pluto, of course, is the god of the underworld, and so there's something quite symbolic about that. Which again, just watch the Centaurs in Astrology video for more information. But the whole thing I'm trying to get at is that whilst the centaurs can often be seen as unruly and wild in this way, Chiron was different, okay? Because Chiron was able to transcend his animal side. And Chiron was also well versed in things like medicine, music, hunting. And Chiron was actually pierced with an arrow belonging to Hercules. But the thing is that it had the blood of the Hydra on it. And so so in some versions of the myth, though, I just want to say a poison arrow was accidentally shot by Hercules whilst they were under attack. So with Chiron being shot by this arrow, um, what Hercules did is he bargained with Zeus and he asked to exchange Chiron's immortality for the life of Prometheus. I, Prometheus was the one who stole the fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. We'll talk more about Prometheus in the Aquarius mythology video. But Chiron was essentially granted the gift of immortality for his wisdom, and so he couldn't die. But you see, the wound still remained. And so Chiron was the wounded healer, and he was a sage who could share his wisdom and knowledge with the world. And so there is a healing quality to Chiron. But we got to then bring it back to Sagittarius and this whole centaur stuff, okay? The thing about Sagittarius is that Sagittarius, just like Gemini, just like Pisces, is dual. This is a dual sign. I would even say that all of the mutable signs are dual. Even perhaps you could look at Virgo as dual, which that's a whole other thing. But Sagittarius is dual in that there's half human, half horse. There's the mortal side and the immortal side when it comes to centaurs. There is this wild and unruly side to Sagittarius where Sagittarians can give in to their impulses, they can give in to their urges. Okay, you think about those animal sort of sides, which isn't necessarily like a bad thing. I just want to say that, but they can give into they can even give into their passions and their desires. But then there's also this other side to Sagittarius that is very much philosophical and wise and intelligent and knowledgeable. So there's the wild versus the wise, there's the mortal versus immortal. And then the bow and the arrow signify the flight and adventure into unknown territories and experiences. So it's about expanding the scope of view so that new opportunities can be gained. And by doing so, we gain knowledge, right? We learn from what we discover, but then we also teach others what we have learned. But the thing about this is that in order to do such things, in order to plunge ourselves forward into something new, we must take a leap of faith. And there's also something here about keeping somewhat positive and hopeful. So the symbol or this, the glyph as well to do with Sagittarius, it's about growth. It's about expansion. It's about widening our horizons. It shows us our desire to really reach new heights of awareness. And we do this through gaining what? More knowledge, more experiences. But we also realize that our time on earth is limited, right? So that's the mortal side to Sagittarius. Our time on earth is limited, but the experience and the knowledge that we gain is limitless. So that's the immortal side to Sagittarius. It's that whole thing of you never stop learning, right? For as long as you are breathing, for as long as you are alive on this planet, on this earth, you you are going to keep learning. You're never going to stop learning. This is something very profound that Sagittarius teaches us. And that's a really incredible thing. And I also think that this is about keeping ourselves open to the world around us, right? There's this sort of this openness to this sign. So that's just a little bit about centaurs and the glyph and the symbol and everything. But Sagittarius is also a fire sign. Okay, so fire signs, as perhaps a lot of us know here, fire signs are optimistic, they're leaders, they're passionate. Fire signs can be somewhat more extroverted in their approach. They can appear more extroverted. Fire is also like like a spark of inspiration. The fire is it's this you think about it even in terms of literally, so burning, keeping a flame burning and glowing, and following what it is that you are passionate about. You know, we're about to approach this 2024 year ahead, and there's going to be Mercury retrogrades in all of the fire signs throughout 2024. There will be a little snippet of Mercury retrograde in Virgo, but still there will be a Mercury retrograde in Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So that will be a good opportunity for us to reevaluate our ability to lead, or looking at the things that we are passionate about, the things we're motivated by, looking at our drive, our inspiration as well. But then you see Sagittarius is also a mutable sign. So mutable signs are highly adaptable. They're flexible. They're open to change. Okay. So mutable signs are like the transitional signs of the zodiac. So we come to Sagittarius, which we're in Sagittarius season right now. We are about to transition into winter. We're coming to the very, very end of autumn, which it doesn't really feel like it's autumn anymore. But we are in that transitional period between autumn and winter. And then Capricorn season comes along, the winter solstice, right? And then boom, we start winter. We look here at the shortest day of the year. Now, with that in mind, we're in the northern hemisphere. So, with being in the northern hemisphere, it's going to be the opposite way when compared to the southern hemisphere. So, in the southern hemisphere, we're actually going from spring to summer. But still, the point of this is that mutable energy looks at transition. And so there is that flexibility when it comes to Sagittarius, but you have to keep in mind the fire energy. So flexibility when it comes to passion, flexibility when it comes to desire and leadership. Sagittarius is very much that sign who, or that rather, that can lead. Okay. But Sagittarius is also concerned about its own freedom, its ability to spread its wings, if you will, okay? To be able to explore unknown territories and to not have any sort of limitations on itself. The minute that a Sagittarius feels like I'm being confined, I'm being restricted, then that is when a Sagittarius is more likely to make a run for it. It's like, where's the exit, right? Where's the exit? Because I can't be dealing with this right now. So there needs to be within that Sagittarius energy a feeling of I am free to choose here. My options are still open here. There's opportunities that I can move toward, especially again, going back to desires and passions and drive and motivation and these, more fire qualities that we just explored previously. And the other thing about this, of course, is that Sagittarius can have many creative projects actually, because you think about fire, it's also tied to creation. It's also tied to our spirit, right? Fire, the element of fire in our chart is about our spirit. What lights up your spirit in this respect? What really gets you going, I suppose. And so, in this way, with the mutable energy, Sagittarians are known for having so many creative projects going on. Now, the issue with mutable signs is that there can be a difficulty in follow through. There can be a lack of, okay, I'm going to follow this project through to completion, and then I'm going to start something after that. There can be that sort of part of Sagittarius that just keeps adding more and more and more to its plate without realizing that it has, if you will, or that, people with Sagittarius placements, they don't realize, oh, I have all these different projects now. And that within itself, I think can actually be extra overwhelming for Sagittarians, which they may need to be a little bit cautious of. But let's now move on to, we'll explore Jupiter next, and then we'll look at the ninth house afterwards. So the ruling planet then of Sagittarius is Jupiter. Now, I want you to kind of think about Jupiter and how there is the curl going upward above that cross. So there's something uplifting happening here. There's something freeing happening. I feel as if this glyph really shows us this expansive quality to this sign, where it wants to set itself free from any confinement. And it is interesting when you look at the glyphs between Jupiter and Saturn, because Saturn, the curl, so if you see that curl above the cross on Jupiter, how it goes up, okay? The curl on the Saturn glyph, it goes downwards. We'll talk more about that in the Capricorn archetype video. But let's look at Jupiter and its significance, because, of course, we think about how Jupiter is tied to Zeus, right? And Zeus being the king of the gods, right? The ruler of the heavens. And in this way, there is so much of this bigger picture quality to Jupiter, this sort of all-seeing, all-knowing eye. And what's coming to my mind more from this is you can sort of think about how often within certain religious practices, of course, Jupiter is also tied to religion. Within certain religious practices, this can be sensed, if you will. It's sort of like, oh, well, if you in, then this means that you're going to heaven or you're going to hell. And so that part of Jupiter, going back to this all-knowing, this energy that watches everything you do and knows this type of stuff, you can kind of see how this also playing out. But even within the characteristics or this sort of personality of Sagittarians, there can often be, which we'll get more into, but there can often be the preaching, the judgment, the possible condemning others for behaving in a certain way, for acting way. Again, we'll get more into that, but the whole point of this is that Jupiter can look within our charts, okay? So if you look at Jupiter in your chart, Jupiter can look at how we judge ourselves and how we judge other people. But to look at it even in a more sort of positive light, this is also about morals, like having good morals or knowing that your moral compass, it's directed in a healthy way. To be in touch with your own moral compass space. And we all have a conscience, right? That's the thing. Whenever you're not with your moral compass, your conscience speaks. And I think that is something about guilt. Guilt can be, whilst it can be viewed as a very negative emotion, it can also be a beneficial emotion in that guilt can help us realign ourselves with our morals and with our code of ethics, which can be quite useful. So to kind of bring it back to this whole thing of, with Zeus and being the king of the gods, I feel as if it's in with our own morality. And Jupiter is so, I think, so profound in our charts when we really think about that deeper. Now, Jupiter also can look at more and more and more, right? If you consider how Jupiter is the biggest planet, right? It's the largest planet in our solar system. Of course, um, the sun is way bigger, but the sun is technically a star. Still, Jupiter being the biggest planet, I think it symbolizes this more factor in our charts, where no matter how much we no matter how much we no matter how much we eat, or no matter how much we take in, it's never enough. No matter how much money we make, for example, it's not enough. So you got to be careful when it comes to Jupiter, because, well, what I'm kind of thinking of with this one is the whole thing of more money, more problems. I think, okay, I want to try and word this in a way where I'm not overly like carried away. That's the thing about Jupiter too, carried away with it. I actually have Jupiter conjunct my ascendant. But anyway, the thing about money, wills, and resources is that you could be in a position where, okay, you don't have overly a lot. You may have enough, but you may want more. You may want more. And maybe you're like, right, okay, I want to make millions, or I want to make thousands and thousands, and I want to get the best car, and I want to get the best house, whatever, okay? But the thing about this is that you can't really measure how you're going to feel or what mindset you're going to be in whenever you actually do achieve X, Y, and Z. You could get that house, you could get that car, but the thing is that maybe there's a whole other list of other stresses, right? So for instance, you could get this huge house and maybe it has 5, 6 bedrooms. But then it's like, well, how are you going to clean those? How are you going to tend to them? And what about the garden? Maybe you need to pay more money then to attend to your garden. So there's more factor. I think that's what more money, more problems to me anyway. This is just my own view on this. Feel free to let me know your own opinions. Like, I'm always open to hearing your opinions. But my view on this is the whole more money, more problem stuff is, yeah, in an ideal world, you could get however amount of money or just stuff, material stuff. But those things within themselves can come with their own issues, right? With their own problems. And in itself could be very stressful and overwhelming. And that's the thing I'm trying to get at with Jupiter. It's like, be careful what you ask for. Be be careful what you desire. And I feel as if the part of Sagittarius, again going back to duality, there's part of Sagittarius that really questions these things in a very wise way, I think can be very helpful. And I feel as if with Sagittarius, so wise. So Sagittarians are known for being very wise and very spiritual and um, philosophical as well. Okay, so going back to the more stuff with this, I suppose Jupiter also looks at excess. I just I want to share something about myself in this way. Um, know for me, whenever I've had too much of something, so if I've had maybe too much coffee, even if I have too many clothes, right? If I've accumulated too many clothes, I can feel like I can physically feel, oh, this is too much. I need to get rid of some things here. I think I overdid it. I was a bit excessive there. Maybe my Capricorn energy kind of helps me identify this a little bit better. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's Jupiter in Virgo because it's, with being in Virgo, perhaps I use more discernment. Could be. But Jupiter can look at excess. But let's also think about how Jupiter can look at knowledge, right? It's not just about more materials and more um, things or wealth or fortune and this type of stuff, but also more knowledge. The whole thing of like knowledge is power is very Jupiter to me. And you learn something new every day is also very Jupiter to me. And it's just that whole thing. It goes back to never stop learning. As long as you're breathing, as long as you're alive, you're going to keep learning. In fact, I would invite everyone to think in that way, because then it means you're learning more about yourself, about the world. And then the thing about it is Jupiter can look at more experiences, more opportunities. So that's another thing with Jupiter Sagittarius energy. It's like, no, I don't really care so much about the material stuff. Actually, I want experiences. I want a good trip. I want to travel. I want to be immersed into a culture, into a new way of life, for example. But again, there it's the whole thing of it's possible to have too much of a good thing. That's Jupiter to me. Yes, okay, it's like it's nice to nice in a way, or to gain more and to enjoy, to even think about, okay, um, I feel happy, I feel good about myself whenever I'm engaging in these types of things. But you can also have too much. It's possible to have too much of a good thing. And just think of anything else. Generosity. Okay, that's another thing. Generosity with Jupiter. Whilst there can be the expansion in terms of materials or whatever it is, really, whatever it is, we can also share. Jupiter is about sharing. Jupiter looks at generosity. Jupiter sort of says, hey, you know what? I learned this thing. I heard this from some, passing on this information to you. But yes, Jupiter is so much about generosity as well, and improvement too. Okay, being able to improve and grow. There's involved when it comes to Jupiter. And the last sort of say with regard to Jupiter is optimism. Optimism, positivity, being able to look on the bright side of things. The glass is half full rather than half empty. This is very Jupiter. There is this inviting, I think, energy to of course depends on what sign you have it in, etc., on the aspect. But there can be this friendly demeanor, this friendly disposition when it comes to Jupiter energy. Still that positive spin, Jupiter can look at, okay, where can I draw from some sort of positivity in this situation? Even a situation that may seem quite unsettling or um in a way. But then again, the other thing about this is just to be cautious of, how in difficult situations, people may try to have this positive twist, and it's like, no, I actually feel really crap right now. I feel really down right now. And no matter how many sort of affirmations you're throwing at me, no matter how much you're trying to maybe inspire me or uplift me, it's just not working because this is how I feel. So that's just something as well to be cautious of. But it's still, some people do take well to that type of stuff, right? Some people do. It depends on the situation, it depends on who you're dealing with. So body parts that Sagittarius rules would be the thighs and the hips. Okay. Hips don't lie. And liver. And I just wanted to see quickly when it came to these body parts, I think balance is a big part. And this also makes me think about the bow and arrow. We go back to the bow and arrow. I was looking more into archers, right? So that's the other thing about Sagittarius, is that the symbol can also be tied to the archer. And the balance required from archers is vital. It's vital. Balance yourself in order to shoot at the target. And so aim at the target, shoot at the target, and just, hit it, to hit it. And that also within itself is so symbolic of what Sagittarius is all about too. So you think about how Sagittarius is, it's sort of like hypothetically pointing and shooting a bow and arrow at its target, its chosen target. But then the thing is, of course, is mutable fire. There can be too many targets. But yeah, I think the whole point of this as well is it goes back to balance. It goes back to balance. And I also think there's a part of this as well where it goes to contentment. And I think that that is a big lesson when it comes to Jupiter in the chart and Sagittarius energy as well. It's like feelings of contentment. And because we go back to more and more and more, right? And it's like, well, are you content with what you already have? Is there maybe something about you that's not necessarily happy with what's going on with you right now? And this is kind of why you're trying to obtain more as a way to fill a void within yourself. So, yeah, contentment, I think, is also a lesson that comes up when it comes to Jupiter in our charts. So let's move on to the 9th house. Hi, triple emers, welcome. Welcome. And Marissa, so you're saying you have all of that Sagittarius energy in your 12th house. That's a lot. That's a lot of Sagittarius energy. So the 9th house. Sorry. So let's move on to the 9th. The 9th house is the house that Sagittarius traditionally rules within astrology. So when we look to the 9th house in the chart, this is a list of all the things we can find. So firstly, we were talking about morals. We were talking about the code of ethics to do with Sagittarius. The 9th house is very much tied to our morals and our code of ethics. And you can even look at the 9th house as, what is your moral compass? Look at and think about your morality and how that shows up within your chart based on the planets that are in your 9th house, based on the sign that's in your 9th house, and also looking to the ruler of your 9th house. Where is that within your chart? Because that's going to point toward your morals, okay? And your code of ethics. These things as well, I just want to say, they can be quite subjective too. It depends on your own sort of experiences and how you were brought up, how you were raised. And this also leads into your beliefs. The 9th house can look at our deeply held beliefs. So these beliefs can be beliefs that we have about ourselves, but these beliefs can also be regarding how we view the world. So we think about religious beliefs, for example, spiritual beliefs, even philosophical beliefs, and also science can be located in the ninth house in its own way. And even our beliefs toward science and research. But yes, our beliefs can be located within this area of within this part of the chart. So explore your chart and see what's going on there. And what I want to say with this too is our beliefs are subject to change. Our morals are also subject to change. And I think that these changes especially happen via experience, via our ability to maybe explore what is unknown, what is unfamiliar to us, and also via questioning. That's the thing I just want to say about Jupiter, actually. So, back to Jupiter, is that Jupiter in the chart is the questioner, is the seeker, is the wanderer, is the traveler. I'm pretty sure as well, with Chiron, we talked about the mythology there a moment ago, but Chiron was like a traveler as well. This seeker, I guess you could say, this explorer. And so the ninth house also looks at exploration. It looks at further exploration. But like I said, such new exploratory experiences can reshape the ways in which we view the world around us. And they can also change and reshape our beliefs that we hold about ourselves and others. And then this also leads into, well, long distance travel tied to the ninth house. So the third house opposite looks at short distance travel. So, for example, let's just imagine you are from Atlanta, the city of Atlanta. Let's go with that. Don't know why my brain went there, but let's say you're from the city of Atlanta and you go about your city. Okay, you visit the coffee shops, you visit the retail shops, you go to an arcade, you go to the cinema, whatever you get up to. This is all third house stuff, okay? The more local activities that you do, and also looking at your neighborhood, the type of neighborhood that you live in too, or the nearby buildings and houses and so on. But let's imagine you go on a road trip, right? You go from Atlanta and you travel all the way across to Los Angeles. This is considered a long distance trip. This then would activate your ninth house. So the type of experience that you have on that road trip is going to show up in the ninth house for you. Maybe on that note, what's important to keep in mind is, well, transits. What planets are transiting the ninth house during certain trips, or maybe it's that the trip from Atlanta to Los Angeles, it's reflected there. It's reflected in the chart and it shows up in the ninth house and you can see it. It's like, oh, wow. Maybe Jupiter is transiting that ninth house for you, for example. Then again, maybe Uranus is transiting that ninth house for you. And then maybe you have one of your personal planets in the ninth house and there's something very unexpected, right? There could be Venus in the ninth house and then Uranus is there transiting the ninth house. And then you meet the love of your life whilst you're on that trip. You're like, wow, okay. Didn't expect to meet you here. Okay. So yes, long distance travel. But the thing even about long distance travel that is quite wonderful, I think, it's our ability to open up our minds. So for instance, going back to the Atlanta versus Los Angeles thing, is maybe in Atlanta, things are done in a certain way, right? There's this general feel or this general sense of how people interact and the things that they do. Honestly, I don't know much um, in this respect regarding Atlanta, but you go to Los Angeles and you're like, oh, okay, there seems to be a different feeling here. People interact with each other very differently here, or it's really expensive actually. It's way more expensive than Atlanta. Or, oh, people surf here. People go to the beach here. Like, what this is very, very different. It's very new. And then you could very well pick up on a certain mannerism or a certain way that people speak in Los Angeles, and then you return home to Atlanta maybe 2 weeks later, and you're saying the lingo from Los Angeles, and people in Atlanta are like, "Oh, so you think you're from LA now?" Teasing, just as a joke, obviously. Um, which is kind of funny to me because I remember so I have Taurus basically in the ninth house, and when Jupiter was transiting my ninth house, this was many years ago. Well, it would have actually been 12 years ago now that I think about it, because Jupiter is in Taurus now. But whenever I was traveling back then, I visited Australia and America. I actually stayed for a longer period of time in America because I was working. I also worked for a little bit of time in Australia, but for a more extensive period of time in America, and it was in New Jersey and in Florida. And then I returned home back to Belfast. And even till this day, my siblings will tease me about the American accent that I had back then. When I look back, I'm like, oh, I cringe so much. Ah, but yeah, because it's like I could hear. I was like, why am I putting on this accent right now? But anyway, my siblings would tease me about that. But that's the thing that's I think also amazing about travel is you can pick up on different ways of talking and interacting, different like ways of being polite as well, you know. There could be certain ways that the Japanese greet each other, or the ways the Japanese do things that is actually considered to be respectful, or even rude, but maybe in a different place it's not that way. You know what I mean? But yeah, kind of going on a bit of a ramble with that one, but I really just wanted to explain the ninth house in this respect, and I hope I can make things practical. But advanced training is also located in the ninth house. So advanced training, I think, is a good one. Because this is the thing. I wanna try and connect this in with other parts of the chart to really explain this. So the ninth house, yes, it can look at higher education, it can look at higher learning. So the third house looks at our early schooling years. You can maybe, well, I'm just going to explain this via where I'm from. Nursery school, primary school, I would even say high school would be located in the third house. But then university, college, again, advanced training, these types of things, ninth house. And you could also look at it through a lens of the sixth house versus the ninth house. So the sixth house looks at our work. Okay. So our everyday work that we do for a job. But the thing about the ninth house is that, so for example, you could take on a training program, and that training program assists you when it comes to your everyday role, to your job. So me, for instance, right? I'll just use myself as an example because I'm always the easiest person to use because I know my own life more than I know anybody else's life. I hope that doesn't sound egotistic. But anyway, so obviously I do this for a living, right? So this is my job. I enjoy talking about astrology, teaching astrology, doing readings for clients. But the ninth house energy, that could be seen as, okay, maybe I take on a new program. Maybe even relate this to the trip that I've been talking about today and the past couple of videos of really want to go on a trip. I'm planning this trip for 2024. Going to host this trip in 2024. Jupiter's actually transiting my ninth house right now. So maybe that's going to look at, okay, there's actually more experiences there that can be gained. There's more training, I suppose, because it is still technically like furthering myself and getting more accustomed to certain things, or to grow in my knowledge and to train further, etc. But the thing is that all that stuff can be applied to my work. But the thing about it as well is that all this stuff can also be tied in with the 10th house, which is after. I actually like to look at the ninth house as like, so if you go to university and you get your degree, right? You go into the ninth house, and ninth house is activated, you get your degree, you get your diploma, whatever it is, but you use that diploma or your degree, and then you go and you apply for a job that's tied in with the experiences there, or the qualification there. So you get that qualification in the ninth house, and then you take it into the 10th house arena, and you go, right, okay, this is the degree that I've obtained. I'm applying here. I want to work here for this company, for this firm, for this organization, whatever it may be. Of course, there's more nuance to this because experience is also vital. Um, and that's the thing about the ninth house too. It also looks at experience. It looks at our ability to gain more experiences. And there's a sense of understanding as well. So third house stuff can look at, okay, well, I'm drawing the connections, I'm formulating these certain connections in my mind, and I'm communicating them. But how do you understand it? That's a big part of it, isn't it, with the ninth house? So when you understand something, there's more of a deeper awareness about a subject. And I feel as if even within what I do, many astrologers want to get to that kind of point, where it's like, okay, well, why? Like, why is Mars? Why does Mars rule Aries and Scorpio? Why does Venus rule Taurus and Libra? And why are there 12 houses in the chart? And how are they interacting with each other? There's just more of a questioning, right? We question within the ninth house, but there is a big why factor. Like, why are things the way they are? Of course, it's not just about what I was saying, even related to work, but this is also about meaning, right? Or higher meaning. Like, why are we here? What is the meaning of this reality? What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of my existence? This is all very ninth house stuff. Very ninth house stuff. And you look at philosophy, you look at religion, and many people are wanting to know why. And I feel like that's the big thing. And the thing that we're never really going to know the answer to, I think so anyway. I think there's actually power and humility, even perhaps, to be said in saying that you don't know something. I think that's even a part of the ninth house where it's like, hey, you know what? I don't actually know. I don't know. I don't know the meaning of the world or reality. I don't know. Um, but we can still quest. We can still search. We can still try and figure things out for ourselves. And that's also okay too, right? Uh, but yeah, all of this is to say that the stuff that I'm talking about, very much ninth house territory. Now, the ninth house also looks at our in-laws, and that's an interesting one. Our in-laws. So, what type of relationship do you have with your in-laws? And legal trials are also located within this house. So that's maybe something to be quite cautious of, I think, to do with the ninth house. Yep, legal trials. But hey, at the same time, this doesn't necessarily mean that the legal trials that we're a part of are doing, it could be that, someone maybe I don't know, they run into the back of our car, right? They crash into the back of our car, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, that wouldn't be of our fault," but maybe there's some type of trial that comes about because of that, or maybe there's a certain altercation within your family, and then you have to go and speak out in court or whatever. But yeah, ninth house legal trials. Then the other thing is publishing. So if you publish a book, if you publish a blog, even this video right now, it's technically publishing because hey, it says publish on the button. So that feeds into another thing about the ninth house is that it's tied to news. Okay, so it looks at the spreading of news and media across all parts of the world. Of course, there's certain areas in the world that don't have certain social media platforms, for instance. But yeah, news sharing, passing on information is very much ninth house, right? Broadcasting as well. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm broadcasting, I'm publishing, I'm putting a message out there into this like global atmosphere. And you think about it, with the internet is very interconnected in this way. Um, but the sharing part of it and the spreading of information part of it, yeah, very much ninth house. The last thing then is aspirations. The ninth house can look at our aspirations. Right, so let's move on. And let me just read through. Okay. Okay, I think you're having a chat in the chat box. Okay, that's good. All right, let's look here at the day of the week that Jupiter rules in astrology, and that's Thursday. I said here that Thursday is typically like a day of wealth, success, and prosperity. I think the ancients would have cast spells and stuff like this on this day for such reasons. And then let's look here at how Jupiter is home in Sagittarius. It's in its domicile in Sagittarius. So let's explore people who have Jupiter in Sagittarius just quickly, briefly. Um, Having Jupiter home in Sagittarius can indicate a person who feels a lot of inspiration when it comes to learning more, when it comes to expanding their horizons, when it comes to travel. It's interesting because I would watch a few different vloggers on YouTube, and the vloggers who are out there traveling, they're vlogging their trips. I've noticed that a few of them have Jupiter in Sagittarius, and a few of them also have Jupiter in the ninth house. So that's another thing. If you have Jupiter in the ninth house, there could be similarities there. But then the other thing about Jupiter in Sagittarius folks is there can be an issue with moderation, right? There can be, of course, the more um, challenging sides to a placement and then the more beneficial sides to a placement. And so, yeah, there can be a difficulty in being able to show moderation or to consider moderation. Excessive, essentially. And Jupiter in Sagittarius as well can also be known for being quite preachy, uh, know-it-all type of energy. Um, but on a more sort of lighter note, let's go with that. Still such hopeful individuals, right? Hopeful, can look at the positives, can create a positive spin to things, and could very well be aligned with their own beliefs and their own morals. They may have quite a strong moral compass in this way, and they're really quite willing to follow it and stay true to it, I think. But let's move on to also Jupiter and Sagittarius are very good at considering the bigger picture. That's another thing, right? The bigger picture within situations. That there's a much bigger theme going on that that may be somewhat difficult to fully grasp or comprehend, But I feel as if there can be a real lesson in that and wisdom in that too. Seeing even how we are part of the greater whole, that can be a very Jupiter and Sagittarius thing. Okay, so let's now look at Mercury in Sagittarius. So Mercury in Sagittarius is in its detriment. Mercury, of course, is home. It's in its domicile in both Gemini and Virgo. But Mercury in Sagittarius being opposite this Gemini energy means then it's in its detriment. And this suggests that it can lack force. So the stuff that I was just talking about to do with Jupiter in Sagittarius, right? Jupiter in Sagittarius is like, right, okay, yes, I'm grasping the bigger picture in this. But I feel as if the Mercury, let me rephrase that. There's a better understanding of the bigger picture, I think. I think Mercury in Sagittarius can often try so logically to kind of get the bigger picture. It can come across as, okay, I'm really trying to get this and make logical sense of this. But I feel as if the Jupiter in Sagittarius is more willing to kind of go, hey, do you know what? This is bigger. This is bigger than me. I understand that it's bigger than me. And I'm just gonna leave that, just leave it as it is. But maybe the Mercury in Sagittarius part of it can perhaps get caught up in trying to really make so much logical, rational sense of it all, but it can end up coming out as a bit jumbled or muddled, or as somewhat nonsensical at times, and not in the Pisces way. But yeah, I just think it's like, to me, because I have Jupiter in Virgo, right? And it's also a detriment. So maybe I can relate in some respects to this. To be fair, it's sort of like what is it, like a mutual reception? Mercury in Sagittarius and then Jupiter in Virgo. But to me, the way I kind of view my Jupiter in Virgo is I'm trying to I often try to get a lot of information through a tiny, tiny hole. And it can come out as as something that I can't even fully grasp. And then I get lost in it all, or I can get lost in the details as well. There's that thing with Jupiter and Virgo. But maybe there's something similar with this Mercury and Sagittarius of trying to make sense of things that are just so vast and huge and large. Um, but it can almost be it can be zapping in a way to the mind. I just how do I explain this in a way where it comes out in the way that I want it to be understood, in a way that I really want it to be understood. Maybe there can be a slight misunderstanding with this energy. So that is just a possibility with Mercury in Sagittarius, of course. But I also want to talk positively about this placement, because I think Mercury in Sagittarius as well, um, great at inspirational speaking. Mercury in Sagittarius can be so inspiring, and they can be really encouraging with their words too. Even trying to think about how my brother my brother had his Mercury in Sagittarius, and I'm trying to think about just the way that he came across. To be fair, my brother had so much Scorpio energy, and he was just very reserved, very quiet. Uh, so maybe he wasn't as chatty as Mercury and the Mercury and Sagittarius energy, if you consider that as a placement. But even, okay, sure, Mercury and Sagittarius can be friendly, right? This is friendly energy. This is engaging energy. this can also be jovial energy, right? Being able to make light of a situation, being able to, okay, bring a positive spin, bring a positive spin and have a bit of banter as well. to be quite comical, comedic, and laugh, right? To make other people laugh. But then again, Mercury and Sagittarius can this energy can also be quite vocal, I suppose you could say, about their beliefs. And if you think about also how Jupiter does expand and Sagittarius expands, there can be the part of Mercury and Sagittarius where there's a difficulty in listening. There can be difficulty in listening. And it's just like, I just want to talk. You know, so trying to kind of slow things down a bit may be something of use to Mercury and Sagittarius natives. But still, I would also want to say with this that for me anyway, my view of this is so inspirational. The type of inspiration these natives can bring can be like even heartfelt and honest, right? A Mercury in Sagittarius is going to be honest with you about what's on their mind. Maybe not necessarily like honest about how they feel, but honest about what's on their mind and how they're making sense of things. And even if, because I was saying there about trying to fit loads of information through a small hole, like maybe that kind of signifies how in the mind of people who have Mercury and Sagittarius, it's just so abstract, and there's a lot to pull from. There's a lot to draw from. To be honest, now that I think about it, this makes sense. It kind of makes sense because if you consider how there is a seeking energy to Sagittarius, and then Mercury and Sagittarius folks have this seeking energy of, oh, I want to learn something new and I want to expand on this and I want to travel to this country and I want to talk to these people and I want to read this book and I want to watch this podcast. That's a lot of stuff to be like putting into the brain. and because there's so much swirling around in their brains of like all the information that they've learned over a large period of time, trying to like bring it and communicate all of that in a way where it seems cohesive, or it seems like there is a real sequence, like a harmonious sequence to it, then that, yeah, maybe that can be quite the challenge then for these natives. But what I'll end this section on is understanding is a big part of this. Mercury in Sagittarius wants to understand where you're coming from. So they'll question, right? They will question, oh, well, why is that? And they'll challenge you. Mercury in Sagittarius will challenge you, which is good, because it means then that you're going to get to think about what's being said or what your views are. And then also you're going to be able to explain what it is that you think. And then that can create a deeper understanding for you too. And then they're also going to be able to understand where you're coming from as well. So, yeah, understanding, I think, is a big part of this placement. Now, the interesting thing I wanted to share is notice how there are question marks for exalted and fall. No planets in Sagittarius are in their exaltation. None are in their fall either. And I don't know. Maybe this is something that I want to look more into for myself, but I just wanted to include it and I thought it was interesting. And if you do have any views you want to share about this, feel free. But I'm like, wonder why, why is nothing in Sagittarius exalted? or in its fall. Maybe I'm not quite picking up on something, the rational part of it, but I wanted to include it because it was just what I picked up on, and also perhaps it's something that you could explore for yourselves. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome. Right, so let's now move on to the decans. So the 3 decans of Sagittarius. So each decan, of course, is 30 degrees, and they're split into 3 element triplicities. This is looking at modern. So 0 to 10 degrees here would be the Sagittarius decan. So if you were born from the 22nd of November to the 1st of December, this means that you're a part of the Sagittarius decan. Or if you were born when Mercury was 5 degrees in Sagittarius, then that Mercury placement would be a part of the Sagittarius decan. So if you were born from the 2nd of December to the 11th of December, you're part of the Sagittarius Aries decan. So that would be from 10 to 20 degrees. Or if you have maybe Mars in Sagittarius at 12 degrees, it would be part of the Sagittarius Aries decan. And then lastly, if you were born from the 12th of December until the 21st of December, then you're part of the Sagittarius Leo decan. And for instance, if you were born with Venus in Sagittarius at 28 degrees, then you would be part of the Sagittarius Leo decan there. So what does this sign teach us? What does Sagittarius teach us? Well, the morals you have can shape how you behave and interact with the world. That's something that we've already touched on today. I just don't want to repeat myself too much. So there is something we can learn from almost any experience in life. Very Sagittarius indeed. No matter what it is, it's like, well, what did you learn from that? Our personality and ego can change depending on how open we are. That's an interesting one, I think. Because the thing is that Sagittarius, along with Aries and Leo, are part of the trinity of spirit, if we think even by house. And when we get to this Sagittarius energy, it looks at the transpersonal view, and also it looks at how our spirit, in a way, expands or grows, or how it is that our, well, again, going back to personality and ego, how these things change. But we do need to be open. We need to be open to the change. The bigger picture helps us realize what is and is not within our control. Ooh, that's an interesting one. And I think this, okay, this is where my mind is going with this one. What I find really fascinating is if we were to group the signs, so Aries through to Cancer are personal signs, Leo through to Scorpio are interpersonal signs, but then Sagittarius through to Pisces are transpersonal signs. So there's an element within each of them. So the transpersonal signs in this way, they go beyond. This is really about the collective. Personal signs is more about, okay, this is how I am feeling. Personal, right? What's personal to you? Then the interpersonal signs is like, okay, relationship between you and another, right? Relationship between us, who you are, and then others. So there is relatability, there's connection, there's back and forth. How you relate to people. But then the transpersonal signs, this is more about the collective. This goes beyond just how we relate to one another, but this is also even about universal sort of principles, universal truths, our relationship with the cosmos, our relationship with everything. So what I'm trying to get at with this is there are two mutable signs that are a part of this story: Sagittarius and Pisces. But both Sagittarius and Pisces are ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, of course. And so I think there is a lot of wisdom in this, because often in life we can we can often in life we may think that we have so much control within it. And I think both Sagittarius and Pisces, just even Jupiter energy, Jupiter teaches us that there's actually a lot in life that we don't have any control over or control within. And that's, I'm not saying this as a way to like, oh my gosh, this is a fearful thing. I'm actually saying this as a way to showcase some type of freedom in it. In that, this can take away blame. This can take away punishment. This can take away feeling guilty even for things. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But yeah, it's like there's so much that we can't control in life. And Sagittarius, I feel, looks at the bigger picture, ushers in the bigger picture, and it says, okay, realize that, okay, this is what is within your control here, but all of this out here is not within your control. So stop blaming yourself. Stop punishing yourself. Stop ridiculing yourself. Maybe that's something to do with the Virgo energy opposite Pisces, because Virgo can be quite critical in this way. But of course, Pisces comes along and there's so much about acceptance, healing, letting go. We'll get more into it in the Pisces video, which I'm quite excited about actually. Right, so moving on. Just because you believe something doesn't mean someone else does. Ooh. That's hurtful to the ego a bit, isn't it? How dare. Okay. It's okay to say you don't know something. That's how you learn more. That's how you learn more. When we feel free to decide for ourselves, we're more likely to listen. Mm. If you don't laugh, or if you didn't laugh, you would cry. This is something that has been coming up a lot recently within my family. So I have Sagittarius in the 4th house, and they're my one of my sisters especially says this. It's like, well, if you didn't laugh, you would cry, because she can sort of still engage in some fun or laughter, bit of laughter, even if times are really hard and times are really bleak. And I also I try to relate with her in this way. And she would say this to me. It's like, oh, well, if you didn't laugh, you would cry. And I feel as if this helps me connect with my sister. And maybe there is something in this, in that laughter can be quite a supportive thing, can be quite helpful. But yeah, I wanted to share that because my sister has been saying it a lot lately, and there's just been a lot going on with in my own family recently. And like I said, we have Sagittarius, or sorry, I have Sagittarius in the 4th house. See, I'm doing it like, I'm doing it right now. Yeah, I just have a I blame my dad, right? I blame I blame my dad. I am my father's daughter because my father, he was born with Venus and Moon in Sagittarius, and they then would sit in my fourth house. And my dad was just such a goofball. He was also an Aquarius. But when I really think about him, all the silly things that he did, like, I just laughed at myself. But I think I think there's a part of Sagittarius where it's like, try and not take yourself too seriously. And I feel as if my dad was like that. And that is something that I learned from my father, to try and not take myself too seriously and also just welcome a bit of fun, bit of laughter. And to be able to even laugh at myself, to laugh at myself. Okay, so it is possible to be too wild and untamed with little respect for responsibility, integrity, or accountability. And this is what we learned from Capricorn then. Of course, Sagittarius energy can be ah when not made aware of, can get carried away. This is what I was trying to say earlier. There's the whole thing of Sagittarius where it can get carried away and um, can run rampant and difficult to contain, difficult to control. Sagittarius, but there can also be sides to the sign where it creates just just reckless, basically reckless, running into things, crashing into things, uh, and clumsy, sort of clumsily stumbling into situations that aren't actually very good for them. So let's look at some strengths. Let's look at some strengths. So the strengths of Sagittarius: looks on the bright side. There's a positive spin to this sign. Has the ability to believe in themselves. Self-belief is quite an empowering thing for Sagittarius. Amazing at cheering other people up. They can be philosophical, they can be wise, they can have good morals. Friendly, chatty, open, fun to be around as well. They're honest with you. They say it as they see it. They're up for an adventure. They're willing to explore and expand. Luck seems to be on their side. Opportunities as well come, and doors open for this energy or this sign. Eager to learn, question, and seek more answers too. So I'm just going to try my best and get through these a little bit quicker because I don't want to keep you here for too long. And the weaknesses, right? Let's get into some of the weaknesses. Preachy, judgmental. They can condemn others even though they're doing the same thing. Hypocritical as well, kind of similar to Aquarius in this way. They can sit on their moral high horse, superior. Okay, it's like in a way acting as if they are above others, especially considering things like beliefs, for instance. This goes back to the whole like preachy stuff. Greedy, gluttonous, more. We talked about it. Don't think things through practically. We touched on that. Too positive or optimistic. It's possible to be too positive. I know. Who'd have thought? It's possible to be too positive, especially if someone is, in a really bad state and they're crying and they're sobbing and you're coming at them and it's like, oh, well, look on the bright side. Oh, well, this everything happens for a reason, this, whatever the philosophical thing is for Sagittarius energy. Um, but yeah, this is all part of a bigger picture. It's part of a bigger plan. And you're just like, no. Yeah, but like, I'm still really sad right now. Yeah. Reckless, careless, clumsy, argumentative, and tactless. And they can also come across as know it alls. So, some journaling questions. Let's see. So, some journaling questions to consider. When was the last time I tried something outside of my comfort zone? Am I able to listen to other people's perspectives without interrupting to share mine? What belief system did I grow up with and do I still follow it? How have my morals changed over the years? Do I feel satisfied with what I already have or do I continuously jump to the next thing? Can I be too easygoing in certain areas of my life? Anything I would like to search or quest for. So do consider those questions. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. I do not follow the sidereal astrology, but I have looked into my chart. So, where is Sagittarius in your chart? Which house does Sagittarius rule in your natal chart? Because this is going to show the area of life where you seek freedom and where you expand. It's going to be the area of life where you question the meaning of life, what your meaning is. It's where you gain more opportunities, where doors open, new experiences. There's questing, there's optimism, there's luck, there's growth within the Sagittarius house. We can't go overboard. We can bite off more than we can chew. We can add on too much onto our plate. I know this very well with Jupiter and Virgo, where I'm constantly adding just too many things, too many work obligations, too many work responsibilities, which I'm still trying to learn from. Tied to our belief that, okay, the Sagittarius house is tied to our beliefs, our worldviews, the bigger picture. It's also a house that shows humor, knowledge, wisdom. Also look for the ruling planet of your Sagittarius house. Okay, so that's Jupiter because it will provide you with more information. And then, of course, these are the houses. So let's just go with this. Jennifer, you said you have Sagittarius in the 7th house, no placements. So if you have Sagittarius in the 7th house, well, this can indicate that there can be some type of expansion or growth within relationships, right? So it could be that new opportunities open up or there's some significant trip that you go on, there's greater travel experiences with a significant other. Maybe your significant other or partner is from a different part of the world. Maybe you met whilst you were traveling, or maybe you have your wedding in a different country. Or if we think about how Sagittarius can look at freedom, there could be this freedom side to this placement where it's like, don't really want to be in a relationship. I like my freedom too much. Or even if you're in a relationship, you still value your freedom. And the other thing then with this is business, right? So doing business with people overseas, possibly, right? So there's that with having Sagittarius in the 7th house. And another house, does anybody else have a house they want to share quickly? And then I can just read it quickly, just for some examples. I might just go ahead and do the 5th house if no one is putting in their house. So, okay, 4th house. Let's go with the 4th house. Thank you, Black Swan. So, the 4th house, if you have Sagittarius in the 4th house, this can indicate that you come from a pretty large family, right? So, many members, many siblings in this way, perhaps. But this can also indicate being part of a religious family, a religious household, or being raised within a religious home, or within a home whereby which there were strong morals, right? It was very much about, right, do the right thing. Follow your moral compass. I have Sagittarius in the fourth house, and seriously, my conscience, if I ever do anything where it's like, I'm not following my moral code, my moral compass, my conscience, it's very, very loud. But yes, it can indicate that you come from a family where, it was about, right, the morality of things. Also, I would say that this can suggest that you can often feel right at home no matter where you are in the world, right? You can sort of get comfortable in different places that you travel to. Maybe you've even lived abroad before. I know for me, I have lived abroad. And maybe as well, your early childhood experiences with your family was very much about, okay, let's travel, let's go explore, let's go on adventures. I also can relate to this because my father, he would take us away every year on holiday, and it would be a long distance holiday. And lastly, let's look then at the sixth house. Thank you, Martin, for sharing your house there. So, lastly, let's look at the sixth house with this one. If you have Sagittarius in the sixth house, you could very well be quite like hopeful or optimistic about your health, or you may do a lot of like research and want to explore more and more knowledge to do with your health so that you can live the best life that you can according to, your well-being. And maybe at the same time, Sagittarius in the sixth house can indicate high productivity levels, actually, like really being very productive, perhaps even very active if it is that you exercise. Or you could very well go overboard or be excessive when it comes to your diet, for instance. But yeah, productivity levels could be quite high, but there could be an issue in that as well. So just be cautious, because it could be that whole thing of, okay, you're adding so much onto your plate, and then it's difficult to find more of a balance there. Also, I want to say just the last thing with the sixth house is long distance travel could very well be tied in with your work. Okay, so you have to travel extensively for work purposes. Oh, Black Swan, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So, what any planets in Sagittarius? Because the thing about your Sagittarius planets is they're going to tell you something about yourself. So, what Sagittarius planets do you have in your natal chart? Parts of your personality are going to be tied to the Sagittarius traits. This is what the planets are going to show. The Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Rising are going to be more personal. Jupiter, Chiron, and Saturn are going to be social, interpersonal. And then Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are going to be generational. So keep that in mind. Wherever Jupiter is placed will tell you more information. And then Jupiter, of course, is the dispositor of your Sagittarius planets as well. So keep that in mind. And also consider aspects to your Sagittarius planets, because those are going to showcase and highlight the bigger picture. Then do consider houses linked to the planets. And remember, decans. We did explore decans quickly there. So the Sagittarius decan, the Aries decan, and the Leo decan. So let's finish off with something quite interesting, which I always enjoy this part of these archetype videos. So just a reminder with the planets. So the personal planets are there on the far left, the interpersonal planets are in the middle, and then the generational planets are on the far right. So the personal planets, as a reminder, the sun is your vitality, your purpose, your ego, how you shine. The moon is your emotions, your internal self, your emotional needs, your unconscious. Though do keep in mind that the moon it shines the light off the sun. And then Mercury will show communication, your thought patterns, how you learn. Venus looks at your values, your self-worth, also looking at your relationships and looking also at your creativity. Mars then looks at your drive, your motivation, your willpower. Then Jupiter looks at exploration, benevolence. And the last time Jupiter was in Sagittarius was from 2018 to 2019. Then Saturn looks at your maturity and your success. But the last time Saturn was in Sagittarius was from 2014 to 2017. And then Chiron looks at our wounds, also looks at integration. And the last time Sagittarius was in what the last time Chiron was in Sagittarius was from 1999 until 2001. Now, this is where I want to just highlight a couple of events with these generational planets. So, the last time Uranus was in Sagittarius was from 1981 until 1988. And what's significant about this is that in 1984, Ryanair was launched, and then also Virgin Atlantic. So consider with this how Sagittarius is tied to travel. We're talking about long distance travel. So Ryanair and Virgin Atlantic being created, you look at innovation tied to Uranus there, really innovating the travel space. People were then able to access travel more. So there was that greater accessibility basically with that. And the other thing with this is Microsoft Windows was created in 1985. And then also Nintendo Entertainment around 1983. And then the first cell phone actually coming to the market, being sold around 1983, 1984. So again, Uranus being in Sagittarius. And we explored how Sagittarius can look at, well, our connections with the world, right? You know, thinking about, yes, okay, long distance travel, but long distance communication as well. So that cell phone being created, Uranus, innovation. Uranus can also be linked to technology as well. But yeah, and social change there too. So imagine just how much the creation of these things has changed society, how much Microsoft Windows has, how many people's work and role it requires Microsoft. Here we use these tools, these online tools, in order to type things up, etc. And then also think about the first cell phone and how that opened up the whole interconnectedness between everyone and how we can communicate with people from across the world. Very much Uranus and Sagittarius energy. And the other thing is the last time Neptune was in Sagittarius was from 1970 until 1984. CNN, right? You think about the news, CNN came out or was released in 1980 when Neptune was in Sagittarius. So, distortions, anyone? False information. Spreading false information. Yeah. Deception. Yeah. This type of stuff. But in a more positive light, right? In a more positive light, dreams, right? Dreams, fantasies. Consider how with the news, you can also spread information in a way where people can be inspired. But let's really face it, like, is the news inspirational? I feel like the news is more so based on fear. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to mention that about Neptune being in Sagittarius. And then the last thing is, well, let's explore Pluto. So Pluto was last in Sagittarius from 1995 until 2008. Now, with this one, of course, very, very sensitive topic, and I do apologize with this one. But yeah, with 9/11 occurring in 2001 when Pluto was in Sagittarius, and just you consider Pluto energy in terms of terror, corruption, this type of stuff, fear, control, and just even how much Pluto being in Sagittarius looked at the real shifts and changes within the travel space. So, of course, what followed from such a tragic, terrible event is the airport control had to be, how do I say, had to be looked at very, very seriously. And so new policies and new measures were put in place, essentially, there. And then on a more, I suppose, lighter note, with Pluto being in Sagittarius, throughout the early 2000s, this is when we noticed things like Instagram being made, MySpace, YouTube, hi, YouTube. So again, looking at the quality of Sagittarius, where it's like, okay, access to the world. This is about the bigger picture, how we are interconnected on this worldly scale. And then the other thing about this is spreading knowledge, sharing knowledge, going back to broadcasting, going back to publishing, to do with Sagittarius. But consider how much these social media platforms and channels have changed the world as we know it today. Massive, massive. Like, I wouldn't be here right now sharing this information if it wasn't for YouTube being made. And that happened when Pluto was in Sagittarius. All right, so that is us. That is everything. If you have a question about your Sagittarius energy, it is $10 per question. Feel free to ask me, but there's no pressure. And pretty much that concludes our presentation today. And if you did enjoy it, you can always buy me a coffee. There is my link. It's also in the description box. And just a reminder, please fill in the survey. I would really appreciate you filling in the survey to do with this trip for next year. It would just be amazing. But yes, thank you so much for listening today. I hope you've benefited from this video, and I hope that the connection has been a lot better. And I appreciate you tuning in. Black Swan, how we can know the developmental journey for the planets in the natal chart. I often like to think of the development of our sort of personality. Well, if we consider personality being representative via secondary progressions, which I want to talk about this over on my Patreon. Yes, I hope to talk about it next week in the behind the scenes video. So if you want more information about that, join the Patreon. But yeah. Distinguish between the ninth house and the 11th house. Oh, that requires a lot more time than what I could answer right now, Alexander. That would probably be worth more. Just it's worth more time, essentially. Okay. So that is us. I'm going to get going. I hope you have a lovely weekend, everyone. Of course, it is Friday. Yeah, have a great weekend. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Please let me know if you did. I would appreciate your feedback. And thank you. Thanks for being here. And I will talk to you all very, very soon. Have a great weekend. Bye.